My name is Karen Miller, and most of my life, I felt like background noise. I was the woman behind the counter in a noisy roadside diner in Pennsylvania. Same coffee pot, same tired shoes, same forced smile. If you'd walked in any night of the week, you'd probably have seen me there wiping the counter, taking orders, pretending my feet didn't hurt and my heart wasn't tired. I'm 45, divorced, sharing a small apartment with my younger sister Amy. We're not poor enough for headlines, but poor enough that every bill feels like a little fight. The kind where you're never sure if you're winning or just delaying the loss. My daughter Hannah is the light of my life. She's in college out of state, first one in our family to get that far. I'm so proud of her, it makes my eyes sting if I think about it too long. But pride doesn't pay tuition. So I work doubles, pick up extra shifts, and pretend I'm not scared every time she texts me about some new expense. That week had already been rough. 2 customers walked out without paying. Tips were thin. Rent was due in 10 days. And Hannah had sent me a message 3 nights earlier. Mom, my chemistry book ended up costing more than they told us. I'm short. I'm sorry. Can we figure something out? I stared at that text for a long time. Can we figure something out? That's pretty much been my whole life motto. The night everything started, it was a Thursday. Winter. The kind of cold that makes your bones feel hollow. I'd been on my feet since late morning. Grease smell in my hair, apron stained, ankles aching. The diner was busy at first. Truckers, nurses, people who'd rather sit under fluorescent lights than go home to quiet houses. By 10 o'clock, the crowd had thinned out a little. That's when he walked in. Dark wool coat, nice shoes, phone in one hand, car keys in the other. He looked like money, not flashy, but comfortable. The kind of man who doesn't check gas prices or swipe his card twice hoping it goes through. He sat at the counter instead of a booth, which surprised me. Men like that usually like distance. I grabbed a menu and walked over. Evening, I said, coffee to start. He looked up, tired around the eyes but polite. Yeah, black. And whatever your best burger is. You got it, I said. I poured his coffee and set it down. Up close, I noticed a gold wedding band on his hand and an expensive-looking watch. He put his phone face down on the counter, like he was trying to take a break from whatever life was buzzing on the other side of that screen. Long day, I asked, because that's what you do in a diner. You ask small questions that sometimes open big doors. He let out a breath. You could say that. Flight delays, a meeting that went on forever, and I still have another hour to drive. Sounds fun, I said, joking. I'm Karen, by the way. David, he answered. I put his order in and kept moving, refilling coffee for the old man in the corner, dropping fries for 2 loud teenagers, checking on a nurse who looked like she might fall asleep in her soup. David ate quietly. No attitude, no snapping fingers, just a tired man trying to get through his night. He finished his burger, paid in cash, left a decent tip, and stood up. Drive safe, I told him, like I tell everyone. Thanks for the coffee, he said, and walked out. The bell over the door jingled, the cold air rushed in, and then he was gone. I went back to wiping the counter, my mind already wandering to my cheap couch and my soft old pajamas waiting for me at home. That's when I saw it. A dark leather wallet, sitting right where he'd been. At first, I thought maybe one of the busboys had dropped something. But as soon as I picked it up, I knew. It was heavy, real leather. You can feel money even before you see it. Hey, anyone lose a wallet? I called toward the kitchen. The cook glanced over. Not mine, he said, flipping a burger. My stomach twisted. I looked down at it. Simple, nice, nothing flashy. The kind you buy when you don't have to think twice about the price. There's this strange little moment when you find something valuable that isn't yours. Time slows down. Two voices show up in your head. One says, "This isn't yours. You know what to do." The other whispers, "Nobody saw him drop it. Nobody knows you have it. Just look inside. Just see." I wish I could say I never heard that second voice. But I did, because I was tired, because my back hurt, because my bank account had $42 in it, because my daughter needed a textbook. I took a breath and opened the wallet. The first thing I saw was cash. A lot of cash. Folded, crisp bills, one behind the other. My heart started pounding. My fingers tingled. My face got hot. That money could take care of a few late notices. Get groceries without counting every item. Handle Hannah's book without me skipping a bill. Behind the cash were credit cards, neatly lined up, and a driver's license. Same face, same suit. David Taylor. I stared at his picture, feeling that war inside me. The cook peeked over. "Looks loaded," he joked. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It does." I flipped through the pockets again and found a business card. David Taylor, senior partner, it read. Big firm name underneath. Office number, cell number, email. Senior partner. That explained the watch, the coat, the way he carried himself. And here I was, with his whole life sitting in my hands. I could hear my mom's voice in my head, clear as day. "Karen Lynn, we don't keep what isn't ours. Not when people are watching, and especially not when they're not." I closed the wallet and held it against my chest for a second. Then I grabbed my phone. I dialed the number on the card and pressed it to my ear. It rang, once, twice, 3 times. Part of me hoped he wouldn't pick up, so I could just throw it in the safe and be done with it. On the 4th ring, I heard his voice. "This is David." "Hi," I said, my voice a little shaky. This is Karen. From the diner on Route 19. "You were just here." There was a pause. I heard road noise in the background. "Yes," he said. "Is something wrong?" "You left your wallet," I said. "It's here, I have it." Silence. Then a sharp breath. "Oh my God," he said. "I didn't even realize. I'm about 40 minutes away already." "It's okay," I replied. "I just didn't want you to get too far without knowing." He exhaled hard. "Everything in there is my whole life. Cards, license, everything. I can't thank you enough for calling." "I can put it in the office safe till morning," I offered. "You can pick it up then. Or if you want to turn around, we're open till midnight." I heard him moving around, maybe checking the time. "If I turn around now, I can be there in about 45 minutes, he said. "Will you still be there?" "Yeah," I said. "I close tonight." "I'll come back," he said. "Please don't let anyone else touch it." We hung up, and I stood there for a second, phone in one hand, wallet in the other, feeling the adrenaline slowly drain. The cook leaned out of the window. He turning around. "Yeah," I said, "he is. You could have just thrown it in the safe and called it a day," he said. "Maybe," I answered. "But this feels better." I slid the wallet into a clean plastic bag and tucked it under the counter where I could see it. For the next 40 minutes, I kept moving, cleaning, refilling, closing checks, but my mind kept drifting back to that wallet, to the money, to Hannah's text, to my mom's voice. Some people say doing the right thing feels good right away. Sometimes doing the right thing feels scary first. At about 11:20, the bell over the door rang again. David walked in, hair a little messy, cheeks pink from the cold. His eyes went straight to me. "Karen," he asked. "That's me," I said, reaching under the counter. I pulled out the bagged wallet and set it down in front of him. He grabbed it quickly, opened it, and checked inside. His eyes moved over the bills, the cards, the ID. He closed it slowly and looked at me. "Is everything here?" he asked, not accusing, just checking. "Yes," I said. "I only touched it to get your number." He stared at me for a moment, then let out a long breath. "You have no idea how big this is," he said. "Thank you. You're welcome," I replied. He reached into his coat and pulled out a money clip, started to peel off bills. "Wait," I said, holding up my hand. "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to," he said. "I want to. I didn't do it for a reward," I said. "I just wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't make sure it got back to you." He studied my face. "How many people would have done what you did?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I said. "I only know what I can live with." He put the money clip back, sat down, and asked for another coffee. We talked a little about my daughter, about his long day, about how tired we both were. He left after a while, wallet safely back in his coat, with a strange little smile and the words, "I still want to thank you properly," hanging in the air. I went home that night thinking the story was over. I had no idea it had just begun. The next day started like any other. My alarm went off at 7:00 a.m. I hit snooze twice. My knees complained when I swung my legs out of bed. Amy was already in the kitchen when I shuffled out, hair in a messy bun, coffee mug in hand, lunchbox on the counter. "Morning, zombie," she said. "Morning," I mumbled, reaching for the coffee pot like it was life support. We talked about nothing in particular, bills, weather, some neighbor who'd parked too close to our driveway again. I didn't mention the wallet right away. It felt weird, like if I said it out loud, I'd make it bigger than it was. But as I rinsed my mug in the sink, Amy asked, "How was your shift last night? Anything crazy?" I hesitated. Then I told her about the man in the nice coat, about the wallet, about the cash, about calling him and waiting for him to come back. "You didn't take anything?" she asked, not judging, just checking. "No," I said, "not a penny." She nodded slowly. "That's very you," she said. "Mom would have been proud." I swallowed past the sudden lump in my throat and shrugged it off. "I just did what I'd want someone to do for me," I said. "That's all." I went into work that afternoon, expecting things to be completely normal. Greasy grill, sticky menus, customers asking for just a little more ranch like it was liquid gold. I hung my coat in the back, tied my apron, grabbed my order pad, and stepped out toward the front. "Hey, Karen," my manager, Tina, called from the tiny office. "Got something for you?" I stepped into the doorway. The office was cramped, metal filing cabinet, old desk, bulletin board with schedules, and motivational posters nobody read. On the desk sat a thick white envelope. My name was written on the front in neat handwriting, Karen Miller. No return address. No stamp. "What's that?" I asked. "Guy dropped it off this morning," Tina said, tapping her pen against a stack of invoices. "Asked for you by name, suit, fancy shoes. Looked like he walked out of a commercial. Said, 'Please make sure Karen gets this.' Left a business card too." She pointed to the edge of the desk. My heart did this strange little flip. I picked up the envelope. It felt heavier than normal mail. Solid. Hands a bit shaky. I slid my finger under the flap and opened it. Inside was a folded letter and something else behind it, sturdy, like a check or card. I unfolded the letter first. "Dear Karen, I didn't want to put you on the spot last night in front of your coworkers or customers, so I decided to do this a little more quietly. I drove home thinking about what happened. About you, about the wallet, about the fact that you called me and kept everything safe even when I'm sure you could have used the money yourself. You told me you didn't do it for a reward. You said you did it because you wouldn't be able to sleep otherwise. I believe you. But I also believe that people like you, people who keep doing the right thing, even when life doesn't make it easy, deserve to have someone show up for them once in a while. So I'd like to be that someone, at least this once. Enclosed is a small thank you. I know small may not be the word you'd use when you see it, but compared to what you did for me, and compared to what I see every day in my line of work, it is. Please don't think of this as charity. Think of it as gratitude with interest. Thank you for reminding me that there are still honest people in this world. If you ever feel comfortable reaching out, I've included my card. I meant what I said about wanting to take you to dinner someday. No tips, no order pad, just two people talking. With sincere thanks, David Taylor. My eyes blurred by the second paragraph. I blinked hard, wiped at my cheeks with the back of my hand, and reached into the envelope for the second item. It was a cashier's check. My name was printed clearly on it. I looked at the amount line and my brain just froze. For a second, the numbers didn't make sense. Then they did. $10,010,000. I sucked in a breath so fast I almost choked. Everything okay? Tina asked, leaning forward. I turned the check so she could see it. Her eyes went huge. You have got to be kidding me, she said. Is that real? Apparently, I whispered. I checked the bank logo. Real, security strip, watermark, all of it. My hands started to shake. I'm not sure how long I just sat there staring at that piece of paper. It felt like I was looking at something from someone else's life. $10,000 wasn't just a number to me. It was months of rent, past due bills disappearing, Hannah's textbooks, groceries that didn't involve counting every item and putting things back. It was breathing room. I sank into the rickety office chair. I don't understand, I said. Why would he do this? For a wallet? Tina shrugged, still staring. Because he's loaded, she said. Because he has a conscience. Because you didn't steal from him when you easily could have. Take your pick. I let out a shaky laugh that turned into tears again. I pressed the back of my hand to my mouth. All I did was what I was supposed to do, I said. Yeah, she said. But most people don't anymore. That's the difference. I looked down at the check again, then back at the letter. On the back of his business card, he'd written one more line by hand. If this feels like too much, please don't send it back. Just pay it forward in your own way, in your own time. Pay it forward. Those 3 words sat heavy and gentle at the same time. I have to go to the bank, I said, standing up a little too fast. Tina laughed. I'd hope so. Go on your break early. I'll cover the floor for a bit. I drove to the bank like I was carrying a glass bowl full of water in my lap, careful turns, both hands on the wheel, heart pounding. At the teller window, my voice shook as I slid the check under the glass. The teller looked at it, then at me, then back at it, then typed something into her computer. Will you be depositing this, or depositing and withdrawing some? She asked. Depositing, I said. All of it. I watched the numbers change on the screen as my new balance appeared. For the first time in I don't know how long, my account didn't look like a sad joke. I sat in my car afterward and just breathed, deep, slow breaths. In through my nose, out through my mouth. I cried a little, laughed a little, texted Amy a picture of the deposit receipt. Her reply came back in all caps. We are going to have real groceries this week. I'm buying fruit that is an ON sale. I snorted out a laugh. On my way back to the diner, I called Hannah. Hey, Mom, she answered. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, my voice thick. Better than okay. Remember that textbook you needed? Yeah, she said cautiously. About that, I'm still looking for a used copy. Don't worry, I'll figure something out, okay? You don't have to, I said. I've got it covered. Order the new one. And anything else you need for this term, we're good. There was a long pause. Mom, she said quietly, are you sure? Very sure, I said. She sniffed. You sound like you've been crying. I have, I admitted. Happy crying. You win the lottery, she joked. Not exactly, I said. But somebody decided honesty was worth something. I didn't tell her the full amount right then. I just told her not to worry about her books this semester. That was enough for her. When I hung up, I sat there with my phone in my lap and realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating how many hours I needed to work just to keep my head above water. I still had to work. The money wouldn't last forever. But the constant panic, that sharp, gnawing fear in my stomach. For a moment, it was quiet. That night, back at home, Amy and I sat at our tiny kitchen table with a notepad between us. "Okay," she said, clicking a pen. "Adult time, what's the plan?" We listed everything out. Back rent, past due electric bill, Hannah's textbooks, groceries, a small cushion for emergencies. I crossed things off one by one as we talked. Rent, handled. Electric, handled. College books, handled. At the bottom of the list, Amy wrote, "Something just for Karen." I stared at those words longer than I meant to. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. "It means you do nothing for yourself," she said. "You wear shoes with holes in them and call it charm. You make coffee at home and pretend you don't like fancy lattes. You never buy anything new unless the old one literally dies. You get something, one thing, for you." I was quiet for a second. "I don't even know what I'd pick," I admitted. "Then start small," she said. "A new pair of shoes that don't kill your feet. A better mattress. I don't care. But you are not allowed to act like you don't matter in this story." That hit me harder than I expected. You are not allowed to act like you don't matter in this story. I'd spent so long being the person in the background of other people's lives that I honestly didn't know how to be anything else. We decided I'd buy good work shoes. Real ones. Supportive, ugly if they had to be, but kind to my knees and back. It sounds small, but that first shift in new shoes, when my legs didn't feel like they were on fire halfway through, that felt like luxury. At the end of that week, one more thing happened. A card came in the mail, plain envelope, same neat handwriting as the letter. Inside was a simple note. "Karen, just checking in to make sure the bank didn't laugh you out of the building. I hope the check gave you a little breathing room. Remember, coffee is on me next time I'm in town. David." There was a little smiley face at the end of the first line. I laughed out loud in my kitchen. Then I did something that felt big in a quiet way. I texted him. "Hi, it's Karen from the diner. The bank didn't laugh. The check cleared. Thank you for the money, but also for reminding me I'm not crazy for trying to be a decent person." I set my phone down, my heart beating fast. A few minutes later, it buzzed. "I should be thanking you," he wrote. "You did the hard part. I just signed a piece of paper. See you next time I pass through." I stared at that message and realized this wasn't just about money anymore. He saw me, not as the waitress, as Karen. And that did something inside me I hadn't expected. It made me stand a little taller at work. It made me look people in the eye again. It made me remember that doing the right thing wasn't stupid, even if it didn't usually come with a giant check attached. I thought the story was done, but really, we were only halfway through. A funny thing happens when that constant money panic loosens its grip on you. The world doesn't suddenly turn into a fairy tale, but little things start to feel different. I still had to get up early, still had to tie that same apron, still had to smile at people who snapped their fingers and waved their menus. But now, I wasn't serving coffee with that tight knot of fear sitting in my chest. If my car made a weird noise, I didn't immediately think, if this breaks, I'm ruined. If Hannah texted, I didn't feel that jolt of dread before I even opened the message. That alone felt like a miracle. About 3 weeks after the check, I was working an afternoon shift. It was slow, a couple of regulars, one family with kids coloring on paper placemats, a guy with headphones scrolling on his phone. Bell over the door rang. I glanced up, ready with my usual hi, welcome in, and stopped. It was David. No coat this time, just a dark sweater and jeans. Still that same calm, slightly tired face. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey, Karen." "Hey," I said, surprised at how natural it felt. "Back for another burger disaster of a day." "Something like that," he chuckled, taking a seat at the counter. But this time, I was kind of hoping for coffee and a conversation, if you're not too busy. I looked around. We weren't slammed. I can do coffee and conversation, I said, as long as you don't mind me refilling everyone else's at the same time. Deal, he said. I poured him a mug and leaned my hip lightly against the back counter, keeping an eye on my other tables. You look different, he said after a minute. I raised an eyebrow. Different how? Lighter, he said. Less weighed down, I laughed. Well, not having eviction notices piling up will do that to a girl. He gave a small, understanding nod. I figured it might help, he said. I just didn't know how much. You changed more than my bank balance, I admitted. You messed with my head a little. In a good way, I hope, he asked, smiling. In a confusing way, I said honestly. I spent a lot of years feeling like doing the right thing mostly meant getting walked all over. You handing me that kind of money for just being honest. It felt like the universe finally saying, "You're not crazy." "You're not crazy," he said. "You're rare." That made my face get hot. I busied myself wiping a completely clean spot on the counter. We talked in between my orders. He told me about his work, about how he'd grown up in a town not too different from ours, about how his parents had worked hard and taught him some of the same things mine did. But somewhere along the way, he'd started to forget. People in my world fight over tiny percentages, he said. They'll ruin someone else's life for a slightly bigger bonus. Then I watched you hand me back a wallet full of cash like it was obvious that you should. It shook something loose. Well, I said, I'm glad my guilt complex could be helpful to someone. He laughed. At one point, when the diner went almost empty for a stretch, he looked at me and asked, "Have you ever wanted to do something else besides this?" The question sat between us, heavier than the coffee mugs. I don't know, I said. When I was younger, I wanted to be a nurse. I liked the idea of taking care of people. But then life happened. Hannah happened. Bills happened. And here I am. Have you ever thought about trying again? He asked. I shrugged. Trying costs money. Money means more hours. More hours mean less time and energy to study. You see the loop? He nodded, thoughtful. Then he said something that surprised me. You're very good with people, he said. You listen. You make them feel seen. That's a gift. Not everyone has that. I didn't know what to do with that, so I changed the subject and asked if he wanted pie. We went back to our regular roles, me as the waitress, him as the customer, but it didn't feel the same. There was a layer underneath now. Two people who knew a little too much about each other's lives for small talk. When he finally got up to leave, he put cash down for his check and looked at me. Can I ask you one more thing? He said. Sure. Would you be okay if I passed your name along to someone? He asked. A friend of mine is opening a cafe closer to the city. Smaller place, better pay, better hours. She's looking for someone who knows how to actually care about customers, not just push them through. I blinked. You've never seen me anywhere but here, I said. I spill coffee. I forget who ordered the extra pickles. Why would you recommend me? Because I've seen you when no one's watching, he said simply. That matters more. My throat tightened. I don't know, I stammered. I mean, thank you, but I'm almost 50. I don't know if I'm who people look for when they think new hire. He smiled gently. My friend is in her 50s, he said. She prefers grown-ups. People who know real life. Just think about it, okay? He slid a small piece of paper across the counter. On it was a name, a phone number, and the words, "Tell her David sent you." And then he left. Again. Bell jingled, the door closed, and I was left staring at that little scrap of paper like it was written in another language. After my shift, I sat in my car with the engine off, holding that note. A piece of me wanted to crumple it up. New things meant risk. Risk meant possible failure. Failure meant going back to the same tired place with a bruised ego. But another part of me, the part that had watched $10,000 land in my lap because I'd listened to my gut, whispered, "Just call." I'm too old for this, I muttered to myself, but my fingers were already dialing. The phone rang and rang, and then, "Hello, this is Bait," a woman's voice answered, warm, direct. "Hi, my name is Corinne Miller," I said. "I'm calling because David Taylor gave me your number. He said you were opening a cafe and looking for staff." There was a pause. "Oh," she said, her voice brightening. "You're the honest waitress." My face burned. That's one way to put it, I guess." "He told me about you," she said. "He doesn't talk about many people. He said you found his wallet and didn't take a penny. He said if I wanted someone I could trust with my customers and my business, I should talk to you." I sat there, stunned. I've been a waitress for years," I said, "mostly diners. I don't know anything about fancy coffee or latte art." She laughed. "Neither do I," she said. "We'll have a machine and a guy to train us. What I can't train is heart. You want to come in and meet? No promises, just a conversation." The word yes came out of my mouth before my fear could catch it. We set a time for my next day off. When I hung up, I leaned back in my seat and stared at the ceiling. A few months ago, my biggest plan was survive this week. Now, somehow, I had a bank account that wasn't in the red and a potential interview for a job I didn't even know existed for someone like me. I didn't know how it would go. I didn't know if she'd like me. I didn't know if I'd like it. But for the first time in a long time, I felt curious about my own future, not just scared of it. End of part 3 status. Completed so far. Corinne's financial relief, David's return visit, their deeper conversation, his offer to recommend her, and her first phone call with Bait about a better cafe job. Still left to write. The meeting with Bait, whether Corinne gets the job, how this new path changes her day-to-day life, and the final emotional look back where she connects the dots, from one lost wallet to a whole new chapter, plus the closure statement asking viewers for feedback, likes, comments, and subscriptions. Part 4, from just a waitress to something more. The cafe was about 40 minutes from my town, closer to the city. On the morning of the meeting, I stood in front of my closet longer than I'd like to admit. I don't own interview clothes. Can stand for 8 hours in this clothes. I picked my cleanest black pants, a simple blue blouse that made my eyes look a little less tired, and my new work shoes, the ones my feet already loved. Amy leaned in the doorway, sipping her coffee. "You look good," she said. "I look like I'm trying not to look scared," I replied. "That too," she smiled. "You've got this." Cafe was still under construction when I got there. Fresh paint smell, half-assembled chairs, a brand new espresso machine sitting on the counter like a shiny spaceship. A woman in her early 50s, with short gray hair and bright eyes, walked over as soon as I stepped inside. "You must be Corinne," she said, wiping her hands on a towel and offering one to shake. "I'm Bait." Her handshake was firm and warm. We sat at a table with no chairs yet, just 2 stools, and a shared sense of what are we doing between us. "So," she said, "tell me about you." I took a breath. "I've been a waitress most of my life," I said, "diners mostly. I know how to handle busy shifts and grumpy people. I'm good with regulars. I remember names. I'm not fancy, but I care." She nodded. "Why do you do it?" she asked. "Why serve people?" "Because someone should," I said. "Because people who come into places like this are usually tired, or lonely, or stressed. Sometimes you're the first person all day who really looks at them. That matters," she smiled. "That sounds a lot like what David told me," she said. We talked for almost an hour. About schedules, about pay, about the kind of place she wanted this cafe to be. "I don't want it to be one of those spots where people feel rushed," she said. "I want it to feel like the kind of place you come when you need a breath." "I know those people," I said. "I am those people." At the end of the conversation, she leaned back and looked at me for a long moment. I don't usually decide on the spot, she said, but I think I'd be stupid not to grab you before someone else does. My heart stuttered. Are you offering me the job? I asked. I'm offering you a full-time position, she said. Better hourly than you're making now, plus tips. More predictable hours, no more 2 a.m. closings. 2 weekends off a month. We open in 3 weeks. I'd like you here from day one. My eyes filled so fast I had to laugh to keep from sobbing. I cry a lot these days, I warned her, dabbing my eyes. We'll keep tissues by the register, she joked. I nodded, trying to collect myself. I'd love to, I said. I really, really would. We shook on it. When I walked back out to my car, the cold air hit my face, and I just stood there in the parking lot for a minute, hands on the roof of my old car, breathing. A few months ago, I was scared of my mailbox. Now I had a new job lined up that wouldn't wreck my body as much, with better pay and a boss who actually cared. All because I returned a wallet. On my way home, I texted David. Just left a meeting with Bate. She offered me a full-time job at the new cafe. Better pay, better hours. I said yes. Thought you should know your little recommendation worked. A minute later, my phone buzzed. That's the best thing I've read all week, he replied. You did that. I just made a phone call. I sat there at a red light and shook my head. I had spent so many years thinking my life would never be more than sticky menus and aching feet. Now, suddenly, there was this door, open, and I had walked through it. My last day at the diner was bittersweet. Some of the regulars were genuinely sad to see me go. The old man who always ordered the same thing, black coffee and a plain omelet, took my hand and said, You were the only one who remembered I like my toast dry. You were the only one who tipped more than $1, I joked, and we both smiled. Tina hugged me in the back by the walk-in. You deserve this, she said, and if they don't treat you right, you can always come back and suffer with us again. I hugged her tighter than I meant to. On my way out, I turned, looked at the counter where I'd first found that wallet, and felt a strange mix of gratitude and relief. Thank you, I whispered. Not to the diner, exactly. To the version of me who had stood there scared and still chosen honesty. The cafe opened on a bright Saturday morning. New paint, new smell, fresh coffee, and baked goods instead of fryer oil. Big windows that let in sunlight instead of neon. We had plants in the corners, real ones. There was a shelf with books people could borrow. A little sign that said, Stay as long as you need to. On that first day, I tied on my new apron clean, simple, with my name on a little wooden tag that said Karen in neat letters. My feet didn't hurt as fast. My shoulders didn't curl in on themselves. People came in with laptops, with kids, with tired faces. And I did what I've always done. I listened. I smiled. I remembered. Only this time, I wasn't doing it from a place of fear and scarcity. I was doing it from a place of enough. A few weeks into the new job, I looked up from wiping a table and saw a familiar figure coming through the door. David. Wow, he said, looking around. This turned out nice. Yeah, I said, welcome to my new office. He laughed. I'm proud of you, he said simply. Those words landed somewhere deep. Thank you, I said, for the wallet, for the check, for the phone call, for all of it. He shook his head. You did the hard part, he said again. I just got to be part of the story. We sat for a few minutes during a lull and caught up. At one point, he asked, if you could go back to that night at the diner, standing there with my wallet in your hand, knowing everything you know now, would you have done anything differently? I thought about it, about the fear, about the temptation, about the heavy feeling in my chest. No, I said, I'd still call you, even if there'd been no check, no cafe, no anything, because that's who I want to be when no one's watching. He smiled. Then I'd say karma is doing her job, he said. Sometimes, On quiet afternoons when the cafe isn't too busy, I catch myself thinking about that night. Me, standing in a half-empty diner, holding a stranger's wallet, two voices in my head fighting. One saying, "You need this," the other saying, "You're better than this." I chose the second voice, and that one choice didn't just bring money. It brought me a second chance at work that doesn't break me, a little safety for my daughter's future. Reminder that I am not invisible. I'm not saying every good deed comes back with interest like that. Life doesn't always tie itself up with a bow. But I am saying this: sometimes, when you do the right thing in the dark, something good starts moving toward you that you can't see yet. You don't know when it'll arrive. You don't know what shape it'll take. You just know you didn't sell out your own heart. And in the end, that's worth more than any wallet. So that's where I've reached in my story. We've gone from me being a worn-out diner waitress to returning a lost wallet, to receiving an unexpected $10,000, to paying off my stress, to stepping into a new job and a new version of myself. What's left, really, is the part where I look straight at you and say, "Now it's your turn." If you had been in my shoes that night, standing in that diner, holding that wallet, knowing your bills were overdue and your kid needed money, what would you have done, honestly? Would you have called him? Would you have kept it? Would you have tried to justify it? I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to share what happened when I chose the harder thing. If this story made you feel something, even a little, tell me in the comments. Share your own karma story, or a time honesty cost you, or paid you back later. And if you want more long, calm, real-life stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button so this video reaches more people. Subscribe to Karma's Letterbox so you don't miss the next letter life sends. And tap the bell so you're here with me for every new karma story we tell together. I'll be waiting down there in the comments, reading your stories too.